Hey everybody, my name is Nemo, and you are watching an episode of Building the Decks. Alright, let's get this party started. Today we're building Grinning Malice. Grinning Malice, the red and black Rakdos deck that came out with the expansion. And this is gonna be our first expansion build. Personally, this deck can be built a number of different ways. Personally, I went for a very aggressive route. And I think that this is probably the best one, as it gets the best results for me. But I mean, I know that people always have their favorite different builds, and everybody plays the game a little bit differently. But this is what works best for me, and this is how I've built it. So, basically, I guess the best way to explain my build is that, first of all, I only run 22 lands, and I don't have any 6+ drops. So that should give you a good example of what this build, how I built it. And yeah, as you can see, I have a nice bell curve. In fact, this is a pretty perfect curve, and I'm almost always playing stuff on curve. So personally, I'm not really thrilled about Evolving Wilds. It's nice if I can drop it turn 1, because turn 1 I usually don't have anything to do. But every turn after that, it sets me back a turn when I have to play Evolving Wilds rather than a mountain or a swamp. So in this deck, I would have preferred to just have had mountains and swamps, but just taking out all the Evolving Wilds means I only have 20 lands, and 20 lands just isn't good enough. Not even for this build. But I only run 2 of them, so it shouldn't end up hurting you too much. But it is, yeah, like in the Exalted deck, it's not that much of a problem. But in this deck, yeah, I hate having these instead of just the kind of land I need. But oh well, it does help fix you somewhat, so it is a dual color deck. So there is a place for him, but it is a little bit annoying in this deck. Anyways, just because of how aggressive you want to be with this deck. Anyways, Bloodchief Ascension is a very interesting card, which I don't run, because this deck can help you out. It definitely works against burn, and it means that the opponent needs to make decisions where he keeps in mind that you can't get counters on this Bloodchief Ascension, because if you do get counters on it, then it does help you out a lot, and it can be very good. But you need also to have removal spells or something big, and basically, yeah, that's the reason I don't like it, is because you need to have attackers, and because you have Bloodchief Ascension in hand, that means you have one less attacker, right? Makes sense? Because Bloodchief Ascension could have been another card. So and then you do need to have those attackers, and you do need to get in there. You need to be able to get past the opponent. The opponent has to not have enough removal to deal with it. And yeah, I'll give you this though. This deck's main plan is to do that, just what this card wants you to do. But because you have this card in hand, you have to do it that way, and sometimes it doesn't work that way, and you can't get in this damage and get the tokens. And then even when you have the tokens, you still need to have removal spells to get your life going with it. And the same is like with Death Creator also. You need other cards to make it good. So I don't personally like cards that make me need other cards to make them really good. And the same goes a little bit for Vexing Devil, because just the 4 damage this is gonna deal, because 9 out of 10 times it's just gonna deal 4 damage to the other player. I mean, if I have another guy, then I could be attacking twice and probably deal more than 4 damage with that. Like for instance, Typhoid Rats is just a 1/1 for 1, but because it has Death Touch, the opponent usually doesn't want to trade with it, and if they only have big creatures, then sometimes this guy over the course of a game gets in for 6 damage or something during the total amount of the game, and that's more than Vexing Devils does, because this just deals 4 damage and then it's done. So Vexing Devils is a good card though. I definitely Personally, I don't run it, but I wouldn't say I recommend not running it or anything like that. If you want to run the card, then go ahead, be my guest. It's a good card. I just personally don't really like it because it gives the opponent choices, and usually the opponent does take the right choice and knows what to do. And sometimes just having a guy means more damage over time. Like for instance, the Death Raiders, it's just one more mana, but it's a free one. It can usually, like this thing usually only gets in to deal like 2 damage as well. But it does kill a guy on the opponent's team as well as just dealing its damage. So that's a little bit more worth it to me. It has a nice synergy, Vexing Devils, with Reanimate, but then everything in this deck has a nice synergy with Reanimate, and you do have to reanimate a 1-drop for it, like just to give them 4 damage, and you take 1 damage. So basically it's like lightning bolting them to the face when you reanimate a Vexing Devil. So it's not that great, but it seems nice just because you've already dealt 4 damage with the same Vexing Devil earlier. But anyways, Dragon Master Outcast I do run just because I am not running any 6-drops, and because they usually seem to be too slow for this deck. But I do want to have some kind of plan B. I do want to just have something, like if it gets to the late game, then I want to have something, and this seems like a good card for that because it's a 1/1. So like I don't mind trading with this. I don't mind, like if I attack with 4 dudes or something and he blocks this one and lose this one, but the others get in for the damage I want to get in for. Like I don't mind all of that because it's just a 1/1 for 1 at the end of the day. But sometimes it has upside, and that upside can help me get through a game that I shouldn't be able to win with this deck because I'm not running any big guys. So that's why I like Dragon Master Outcast, and it helps me out a little bit there. Reanimate is obviously an amazing card, even if I'm not running any big 6-drops. Like I can get what's his face, Demigod of Revenge with Reanimate, and I'm already really happy. Any 4-drops with Reanimate is also really good. So, and sometimes you get to take something really big out of the opponent's graveyard. So yeah, all upside in my opinion. Really good card. Stabbing Pain. This is basically a little bit the same like the card that is in Obedient Dead, except I think Obedient Dead has it as a sorcery, and it doesn't tap a creature. It just makes it no, it's an enchantment actually. Obedient Dead has kind of this card as an enchantment, except it makes the opponent unable to block you and gives it -1/-1. Well, this usually comes down to the same thing, because you only need something to not block you for 1 turn most of the time to be able to get in for the lethal damage you want to get in for. And this has a little bit of upside since it's an instant. You can use it on your opponent's turn and allow them to not attack you. And plus it works better in a deck like this where you're more aggressive, so the fact that they can't block you turns out to be that one of the guys can't block you for a turn turns out to be pretty useful a lot of times. So it really works better in an aggressive deck like this than it works in Obedient Dead. And of course it helps against goblins and stuff like that, so that's why it's in there. But even against not goblins, in this deck it's great. In Obedient Dead it's like the enchantment, you gotta run it because of token decks and fast decks and stuff like that. But if you get it against a deck that's not fast, it's still at least useful. In this deck, most of the time, even against any other deck, it's a great card. So basically that's the difference, because it works better in this deck. Then we have the Typhoid Rats, which I already talked about. Because they don't want to trade with it, you end up getting in for a lot of damage. And if you need to actually have a good blocker, then here it is for 1 mana, Death Touch. Damn, there you go, man. What else do you need? That's great. So moving up to the 2 mana cards, we have the Demonic Tutor. Personally, I like it because it's a tutor. Sometimes I want to really get something, and I have the Demonic Tutor for it. Like turn 4 is a great turn to Demonic Tutor because you can get your removal spell that costs 2 and still have done something that turn. Or even if you already have a removal spell that costs 2 in hand, terminate. Then like you can Demonic Tutor for your 5-drop, your Demigod of Revenge. Get that. Maybe you have another Demigod of Revenge in the yard. Like get 2 Demigods of Revenge out and attack for 10. Like, so it's a great card. But I'm gonna say this, you don't have to run this card. If you don't want to run Demonic Tutor, then you don't have to run it. In this deck, because if you build it like this, where the mana curve is so fast, where you have a nice bell curve like this, then you're gonna have something to play turn 1, something turn 2, something turn 3. Well, not always something turn 1, but still. Like turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, you have something to play. And you may not always have time to play Demonic Tutor. So it's not as good as you may think, but it's still really good. And that's why I play it. But it isn't an automatic inclusion in this deck. So at least give it some thought. But it is a good card, and I run it, so... Anyways, Spite Flame Witch is a 2-cost 2-1 that has an ability where each player loses 1 life. Personally, I haven't really needed to use its ability ever, so I just regard it as a 2-cost 2-1. And the reason why it's not that great is because if you're in a race, then it doesn't do much for you. And unless you're already winning, in which case you don't need it. And the ability costs 2 mana, a black and a red, and sometimes, like I said, you have something to play turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and you don't always have the time to use its ability. Now that's not an excuse. If a card has an ability that costs mana and that's good, and you're like, well, I don't always have time to... Like, if it's a really good ability, then don't care about that. Like, but this ability isn't really good, because if you're in a race, it doesn't help. So, and this deck does end up making a lot of matches into races. So that's why I don't consider it a really good ability, and that's why putting mana in, like having to pay 2 mana. Like, just imagine if the opponent is at 4 life and you're like, I need something to finish them off. And you have this on the board. Well, you have to pay 8 mana to deal that 4 damage you needed. So that's a lot of mana to deal just a little bit of damage. So it's not an like having them at low life and having this guy on the board doesn't even mean that you win. It doesn't even automatically mean that you win. So if that's not the case, then this is really an opportunistic card, and I don't like opportunistic cards like that. So no thanks. Now we get to Avatar of Discord, which is another one of those opportunistic cards. It's a free cost, 5-3. Like, I get it because red and black is the color of chaos, and you get cards like this and that. But like, you have to discard 2 cards to get a 5-3 flyer. 5-3 flyers aren't worth discarding 2 cards, because it costs you 3 cards in total. So I don't think that's worth it. And if you top deck this late game and you don't even have the cards, then you're really kicking yourself for including it in your deck. I got this guy off of in one of my games I recorded. I got it off of Bituminous Blast. I just needed a blocker. That's all I needed. I needed a blocker. So I played Bituminous Blast, and I got Avatar of Discord, and I didn't have the cards to sacrifice to make it stay on the battlefield. So it just felt really bad because I needed a blocker, any blocker, and Avatar of Discord wasn't it because I couldn't make it stay. So no, I don't like running it, and just the fact that Bituminous Blast is in the game means that you can't even like only play this when it's good for you, because sometimes you're gonna cascade into it, and then you're gonna be sad anyways. So yeah. Anyways, that's that story. That little story there. I think I skipped to the 3-cost cards while I'm still on the 2-cost cards. It's because I only have 1 2-cost card that I'm not playing. I ain't playing a lot of 2-cost cards, as you can see again in the bell curve over here. So I'm running Goblin Decorators. This card turns out to be really good in an aggressive deck like this. Obviously this is not a card that you would run in any control deck, and like it's you could almost say from a control perspective this isn't even worth a card maybe, but in a deck like this the 3-1 trample means that because you're so aggressive they probably have to block it anyway, and early on, and can't just wait for something big to come along and block this and not die itself. So they trade cards for it, and you've got some damage in because of the trample. So that makes it a good card in a deck like this. Now Onyx Mage may not seem like the most aggressive cards because it's got like an ability that you have to spend mana on to give something Death Touch. And again, obviously, like with the Spiketail Flame Witch, 2 mana is a lot to invest in this guy, but This guy is a little bit more worth it than the Spite Flame Witch, in my opinion, because it means that your guys get past. Like the reason you want these two is well, these three, I guess, because there's two of these. Haha. But the reason you would want this is if you're in like a board lock, and this deck is too fast. Like if you're gonna be in a board lock, you don't have that many tools to use late game. The opponent probably does, so you're gonna lose if you can't get past them and deal the remaining damage. If they get stabilized, you're not in great shape. So that's what you need these kind of cards for, or at least their abilities, because like this guy just wants to this girl just wants to get at their last remaining life, deal some damage there. While Onyx Mage takes a different approach and gives a guy Death Touch, which means that even if they have huge guys, they still can't block your guys. So you can still at least force them to trade or something, and that's good for you in a board stall. So you can at least still be attacking. So I personally think that Onyx Mage is better because there's a lot of attackers in this deck, and that's exactly what this deck wants to do. So it helps you, instead of going for a plan B, it helps you be able to keep on aggressing with plan A. So that's always better in my opinion. Plus this guy only needs a black and a 1 instead of a red. I don't think that makes a lot of difference. I'm just pointing it out. May make a difference, may not. As you can see, there's more mountains than swamps in my deck anyways. But yeah, he helps out there, and he combos really well with a lot of cards, which this one doesn't. So that's why I really like it, because this just makes him lose 1 life, which isn't even enough to trigger like Bloodchief Ascension or stuff like that, which I'm not even running either. But Onyx Mage, as you'll see, really combos really well with some cards. So we'll get to those in a second. Then we have the Sootstoke Kindler, which gives something haste, and this one combos really well with other cards as well. He has haste himself, so basically turn 2 I'm usually even playing the Sootstoke Kindler rather than either of these, because Sootstoke Kindler means that turn 3 I'm attacking with Ashen or Gouger rather than waiting a turn with it. And that makes this guy so much better if you're able to attack with it with haste. And like this guy with haste is also really amazing, because you get to win the trade-off with this guy in Electrode, just to say something. Like, because with this guy in Electrode, it's the one who plays it first who gets to keep it, you know. There's usually always something you want to kill. You want to ping with this guy for 1 damage. Or sometimes you have a removal spell as well, and you just ping something and make this guy grow. Because you, like, yeah. Because this guy gets to be a 4-4 or 5-5 over time in most of the games, and does end up making a difference aside from just the 2 guys or something over the course of the game that he killed with his ability. So he's really powerful, and giving him haste is really powerful, and giving him Death Touch is even more powerful. Because Death Touch, yeah, guess what? Death Touch does work with his ping ability, because you're dealing 1 damage, so you can kill anything with that. Yeah, yep, unless they're indestructible. So yeah, Death Touch with Blood Cultist, amazing ability. That's a really good combo. Then we have the Terminates, which, like, 2 cost, destroy any creature. So that's already murder for 2 mana. Yeah. What? And it can't be regenerated. So, yeah, run all of these. Can't say anything else about it. They're amazing removal. Probably some of the best in the format, so you want to run all of them. Ashimore, Gouger, you can't block, but you're not looking to block most of the time with this deck anyways. Although, yes, it is true that this deck makes a lot of matches into a race. So sometimes you really wish that you could block, but come on, it's a 4-4 for free. That would be insane if you could also block. So, then we get the Blightning, which is a really powerful card that just, I don't see why you wouldn't play this, no matter what kind of build or deck this would be. If it's running red and black, you run Blightning. So, yeah. Blood Cultist, I already talked about, is really good. Isolda the Blood Witch usually has something good to do, and even if it doesn't have something good to do, you can just wait until they try to kill one of your guys, and then instead you sacrifice it and get advantage out of it. And if you really need to kill something, then you trade off one of your less important creatures for their more important creatures. So good stuff all around, and you get to draw a card off of it. And like if they're at only 2 life, you can kill them with this guy, And look, 2 mana to deal 2 damage. Whereas, what? Spite Flame Witch, 2 mana to deal 1 damage. To you as well. So, this is way more, like way better, and just 1 more mana to play. So, yeah. Just a comparison between those two should tell you just how good Lysola is and how bad Spite Flame Witch is. And then we get to Rockslide Elemental, which with this deck, the amount of kill spells you have, the amount of tapping with Blood Artist and stuff like that, the amount of chaos that is on the battlefield, because that's really this deck's middle name. It's Grinning Malice. Yeah, just a lot of stuff will happen, and this guy gets a lot of counters. And this deck, like Strength of Stone in the previous deck, I know that's what you're thinking about when you see this card, and you're like, yeah, but he's not that great. But he is in this deck, and in Strength of Stone, that deck, it's like this card is fast, but Strength of Stone was a slow deck. And it had a lot of mass removal, whereas this deck has more spot removal. And the mass removal would kill this guy as well in that deck, whereas the spot removal kills their guy, gives this a counter. So, like, it just fits so much better in this deck than it did in than it ever did in 2012 in Strength of Stone in the previous game. And yeah, this first strike, like people always fall for this guy. They never know how to block him. They double block him with 1/1s or stuff like that, and they think they'll kill it. No, because you first strike, like let's say someone blocks this guy with 2 1/1s. You're gonna first strike, kill one of their 1/1s, get a counter on this guy, so he's a 2/2 now, and then their second guy deals damage to you. So you're now a 2/2 with 1 damage on it, and he lives. And people always fall for that. They always do. But that's how the guy works. Like, you have to be really careful blocking this guy, but you can block it with 3 1/1s and kill it as long as this is a 1/1. But then, of course, if the opponent has any mana open, you're never gonna do that, because if then they murder one of those 1/1s, then you get so much disadvantage that like this guy's, that would be silly. So you're never gonna do that anyway, as long as the opponent has mana open. So basically, it's really difficult to block this guy correctly, and that's what makes him great. And if you have Blood Cultist out, he's even more difficult to block. And yeah, I mean, it's a great card. And yeah. So let's move on to Chaos Warp. There's more free cost cards in the cards I'm not running. Chaos Warp is a great card. I'm not gonna complain about it. Like, I know that you can get disadvantage from it, and I know that whenever you play this on any permanent you own, that you're never gonna get anything useful from it, because that's how this game works. If you could be unlucky, you're gonna be unlucky. At least that's how this game works for me. Like, if I blow up someone's land, they're always gonna draw a land. If I do it with this card, they even get that land off this card. That always happens to me. So basically, this is a removal spell, and that's the only way to look at it. And if you have to use it any other way, then that's a desperation move. So, as a removal spell, is it good? Well, do people run Beast Within? Hell yeah, they do. So this card is good. But Beast Within is not just any removal card. You don't run it in a very aggressive deck, and you don't run this card in a very aggressive deck. And this deck is very aggressive. So if you're running this for all the big 6 drops and 7 drops and 8 drops that this deck has, then be my guest, run Chaos Warp. It's a great card. In this deck, however, like, this can give them a blocker, and I'd rather just have different kind of removal or more aggressive creatures and get their life down to 0. Because that's how I run this deck. So that's why I don't like Chaos Warp for this deck, but it is a good card, and yes, you can get unlucky with it, but come on, like, you don't, that's not the way you look at this card. It's just, like, most of the time they're not even gonna get anything off of it. Like, mathematically, if you do the math, because it only gives them if it's permanent. So a lot of times they don't even get anything off of it, and a lot of times they just get a land off of it. So there's like very small chance that they get a permanent that they can use off of this card. But of course, there's gonna be the games where you play this and they get their huge dude, and then they continue to win the game because of it, and that's annoying. But that's just, I mean, that happens. But it is a good removal tool. It is a good tool for control decks. This isn't a very controlly deck, so I don't like it in this deck. In this build, is what I'm trying to say. Anyways, Heat Shimmer. This card sucks. Like, there's no other way to put it. Yeah, it doesn't even get rid of their blocker. It just copies something. Like, compare this with the one that grabs their guy, gives you the haste. The difference is that with this card, if you use it on their guy, it doesn't get rid of their blocker. But they're probably not going to block anyway, because they don't want to block something that's going to get exiled anyway. But that means that, of course, you can't attack with your other guy as well, because they can still block that. At least if you wouldn't be able to attack anyways. But you get what I'm trying to say. And the difference is, though, this card you can use it on your guys. But why? Like, everything that would be worth using this on already has haste in my deck. Every 4 drop and 5 drop, they have haste. So, like, there's almost no point. Hissing Iguanar is a free cost free one that, like, does stuff, but it's not good enough in comparison with Rockslide Elemental, Lysolda, Blood Cultist, and Ashimore Gouger. This is the worst of the free drops, so I'm not running that one. Pain Magnification. If there was room in this deck, I would probably run it. I had a weird... Like, I was running this card for a very long time while testing this deck, and I almost never drew it. Like, I only got to test it like twice, but basically my conclusion to it is, with some thinking, like, most of the time you're gonna get some advantage out of it. You're gonna get Lightning with Pain Magnification is pretty good. Or like Blazing Spectre, like you have enough discard in this deck that usually you're gonna get some kind of value off of this, and you have enough damage. What I mean to say is that, like, it's only good if you're discarding more cards than just that card, because usually if it's just gonna be one card, then they discard a land, and you've used 2 cards to make it happen. Anyways, usually you're not gonna get into the card disadvantage with this card, but usually it's not good enough for me when I have a lot of cards that always do something useful, in my opinion. Well, at least in comparison. And Pain Magnification, like, I would run it if there was room, but there's not, and I'm already just running 22 lands. I wouldn't run 21 lands to add the Pain Magnification, so no thanks. And again, it's one of those cards you have to drop this and spend a turn on it, so when this deck is so aggressive. Then we get to the 4 drops, and this guy is just way too slow for this deck. At least the way I run it. You could run this deck differently, and I guess Scavenger Drake could be better for you, but it's not for me. Singemind Ogre, in comparison with Hellhole Rats, I like the Hellhole Rats better, so I'm not running Singemind Ogre. They're interesting duality though, these two, the way they work. Like, Hellhole Rats always discard something, whereas this card just makes them show the card to you. So, of course, this card can deal more damage to them if like they're getting land screwed or something, or you just get lucky with because this one randomly does it. So you can get lucky and make them lose more life off of it. But it doesn't have haste, so the more life that they're gonna lose off of it is usually, like, if it's just 2, then you've already taken care of that with this card because it has haste. So basically all I'm saying is, like, a lot of times Hello Rats is gonna get better, and the other times you're lucky with this card. But I don't want to count too much on cards on getting lucky. I think I've explained that well enough already, so let's not get into that again. Blazing Spectre, jeez. Blazing Spectre is cool. I don't know why he's tilting his head. That seems weird to me. Maybe he's looking at something at the side, or he's looking at us. But anyways, and why is this Drake having his neck in such a weird... I guess it's because of Chaos. Chaos! Grinning Malice. But yeah, it gets in with haste, so it's already much better than the other one you had in the previous deck that didn't have the haste. In the previous game, I mean, in 2012, there was a card like this that didn't have the haste and was mono black. But because of haste, this card is a lot better, because you're gonna get in most of the time, and like, you can just wait with the card until they're tapped out and ensure that you get in, and they're not counting on it, and like most of the time, the random discard, I mean not literally random, but the discard that comes with a stick in this deck is so good because they don't expect it, and they're already under pressure because this is a really aggressive deck. So they have like a plan B or something if things go wrong, and they're holding that in their hand, or they're working to something where they're like, well, I'm really getting screwed here, but as long as I can survive this round and then drop my Grave Titan or something later on in the game, then I can turn this around. And then you're like, but they have to drop every other card to make that happen. And then you're like, well, randomly get in for 2 manage with Flying Haste. And guess what? You get to discard that card you were working toward, and now you don't have a plan B. You're dead. You're dead, sir. A bush. So, really good. And, yeah. That's it for the 4 mana, guys. Wrecking Ball, really good spell. 4 mana, it's a kill spell, so you're gonna run this most of the time. And, it's not too expensive. And occasionally you can screw over a dual color deck. This card, there's the same card in the mono black deck. Except I think that's one isn't an instant and it only destroys target non-black creature. Well, I didn't like that card too much because back then there were only monocolor decks, so destroying a land wasn't always good, and you're more likely to get screwed anyway when you're playing against the mirror or any other black deck. But now that there are a lot of dual color decks, destroying a land can be really profitable. So that makes this card better, but even without that, like, it's a 4-cost removal spell. Like, maybe if it didn't destroy lands, I would only run 2 of them, and I would run 2 Bituminous Blasts rather than 1, but I would still run them, at least. So, anyways, Bituminous Blast is a really good card. Sometimes, however, they don't have anything with less than 4 toughness on the board. Like, they have only big guys, and then you're really sad holding this card in hand. So that's why I don't want 2 of them, because especially when that happens. Like, most of the time, even if they're playing Pack Instinct, if you only have 1 of these in your deck, you can at least kill some small dudes. They're usually gonna drop at least 1 small dude. But if you get 2 of them, then it gets really hard to take advantage of it, because if they only have big dudes, and it gets really difficult to get around that. So basically that's why I only run 1 of them. And the other reason is because it works out better for the mana curve this way, to only have 3 5-drops. And Demigod of Revenge, they're really great. Personally, with 2, I almost always draw 1, or they discard 1 of them, and I get it with Reanimate or something. I usually at least get 1 of them, and 1 is usually good enough anyways. I know they get better with more guys, but at that time you're at 5 mana, and this deck has done a lot of damage by then, so you don't always need multiples of them. It's nice though that the possibility exists, so that's why having 2 of them is a little bit better, because now at least I have the possibility of using his second ability where I get the other one from the graveyard to attack again. But yeah, like, I don't want to run too many 5-drops, so I only run 2 of them. But yeah, running 4 of them isn't terrible, I wouldn't say, but it's not the kind of deck I'm building here. I'm building a really aggressive deck, really fast deck, whereas if you want to run 4 of these, then maybe you want to run a little bit more of a control build, where you get up to these and then all of a sudden drop a lot of them. Like, you would maybe run Bloodchief Ascensions or some, or Death Greeter or whatever. Yeah, probably Death Greeter. Like, it's stuff that can gain you a little bit of life, can stall the opponent a little bit better. Maybe you would run like Chaos Warps in that kind of deck, but that's not the deck I'm building. So yeah, and then there's a lot of 6-drops that you would also probably include some of in that kind of deck, which I'm not building, so I don't need these 6-drops. Even though, like, Deathbringer Faktar, holy crap, this guy works so well in this deck. Like, oh man, there's so many combos and impressive stuff you can do with it. Give it Death Touch, yeah, wow. What the heck. With its ability, like, yeah, if you give it Death Touch with its ability, you can pretty much just wipe out the entire board of the opponent, no matter how big their creatures are, as long as they don't have indestructible. So, really good combination with Onyx Mage. Give it a haste with, of course, Sootstoke Kindler. Giving any of these big guys haste is good. But yeah, anyways, it's a good card, but it's a 6 cost, and I don't need 6 costs in this deck. And I'm like surprised that there are so many big bums in the deck that doesn't need them. But anyways, that's just my my way of building this deck. Anyways, Defiler of Souls, also a really powerful card. I don't know if I would run this because you can get screwed up against the dual color decks, and it is a little bit less impactful than like a Grave Titan. Anyways, Grave Titan of course is a really good card, and you're not running Grave Titan when you could be running Grave Titan? What the heck are you doing, Nemo? Well, again, just from testing this deck and playing it the way I built it now, like 9 times out of 10 I don't even get the 6 mana, so I can't see me playing him for that reason. Malfagor, probably not, like, nah, it's just worse than any of these other guys. Massacre Worm is an insane card, and it's probably the last one I mean, the first one I would run if I ran any of these at all in this deck that I'm playing, because it's a little bit aggressive and it gets rid of their blockers and allows me to attack more. Yeah, so it does help really well there. It's great against Peacekeepers, of course, against decks like that. Anyways, so yeah, it is an insane card, but it does cost free swamps, so yeah, probably the best one out of these, to be honest, but it does cost 3 swamps, so that makes it harder to cast in the dual color decks. And then there's like Rakdos the Defiler, which, craziness happens and chaos, and I don't like cards like that. And then there's yeah, this guy seems bad to me unless you're already winning the game, because the opponent, if they're winning the game, they don't have a reason to cast a spell in the first place. But yeah, and this guy is just not needed. Like, what the hell? There's an enchantment in the Goblin deck that gives everything double strike and attack each turn of Fable, and that costs a lot less than Avatar of Slaughter, and I probably won't even run that one. I'm not done building the Goblin deck, and I haven't played the Goblin deck for a very, very long time because I don't like the Goblin deck. But I probably don't even run that enchantment, and it's way cheaper than this thing, so why wouldn't I run that? And then there's Din of the Fire Herd. Yeah, I mean, these cards are good. I don't even care about discussing them anymore. Like, these cards are good, but they're not needed in my kind of deck that I'm building here. So, this is my build, and yes, I'm running 11 mountains and 9 swamps, but I didn't want to screw up the build too much to get that to 10 and 10. So I'm happy here, and I think it's good. And this is the way I built this deck. Tell me your way of building this deck, because I know this deck can be built rather differently, and I'm interested in hearing it. But this is the way I built it. This is the way I think it runs best for me personally, my style of play. So this is the deck I'm gonna do a gameplay video of in the next video. Hope you stay tuned for that. It's gonna be fun, and see you guys next time. My name has been Nemo. I hope this video helped you a little bit, or at least was fun to you. And if it was, then leave a thumbs up, because I appreciate it and it helps my channel grow. And my name will still be Nemo next time. See you then. Yeah, I didn't forget about my outro there, even though I interrupt myself halfway through. Oh my god, why am I interrupting myself again? Bye.